This podcast is sponsored by ScienceBasedLearning.com. Discover your passion for languages with our innovative ebook, audiobook, and video system. Maximize retention using spaced repetition. Start your journey today.
Overcoming native language interference in adult language learning. Discover how native language interference impacts language acquisition and practical ways adults can manage it to learn a new language effectively. Understanding native language interference in language education. When you're beginning to learn a new language as an adult, you might notice some unexpected challenges that slow you down, especially when your first language, also called your native language, seems to get in the way. This phenomenon is known as native language interference, and it's one of the most common hurdles adult language learners face. As a language expert, I want to explain what native language interference is, why it happens, and how understanding it can improve your approach to language acquisition and help you become a more effective language learner. What is native language interference? Native language interference occurs when the rules, sounds, vocabulary, or grammar from your first language unexpectedly influence the way you speak, write, or think in your new language. Essentially, your brain tries to transfer patterns from the language you already know into the language you're trying to learn. For example, if your native language has a very different sentence structure or pronunciation style, you might accidentally apply those patterns to the new language, leading to mistakes that are perfectly understandable but not quite native-like. Why does this happen? The human brain is wired to recognize patterns. When learning a new language, your brain attempts to make sense of unfamiliar sounds and structures by comparing them to what it already knows. This is a natural and very normal part of adult language learning. Because your first language is already deeply embedded in your brain's neural networks, it acts as a shortcut or reference point. While this can speed up learning in some areas, especially vocabulary through cognates, words that sound similar and have the same meaning, it can also be a source of error. The key is that your brain is working hard to process new information based on an existing framework, sometimes with unintended consequences. Examples of native language interference. Pronunciation. Spanish speakers might struggle with the English V sound because it doesn't exist in the same way in Spanish, leading to pronunciation like berry instead of very. Grammar. Native Japanese speakers might drop plural markers in English sentences because Japanese doesn't use plural forms in the same way. Word order. German speakers might place verbs at the end of English sentences mistakenly due to German sentence structure habits. Idiomatic expressions. A French speaker might translate idioms literally into English, creating awkward or confusing phrases. The impact on language acquisition. Native language interference can sometimes feel like a barrier to fluency, but it's important to remember that it's actually a sign your brain is actively engaged in comparing and learning. However, if not recognized and managed, interference can lead to fossilized errors, mistakes that become habitual and hard to change. This is precisely why understanding the science of language learning matters. Adult language learning isn't just about memorizing vocabulary or grammar rules, but involves rewiring your brain to adapt to new linguistic patterns. Native language interference slows this process if unchecked. How to manage and overcome native language interference. Here are some practical tips to help you limit the negative impact of your native language and accelerate your progress. Become aware of interference patterns. Notice when you're applying native language rules. Self-awareness is the first step to correction. Practice pronunciation carefully. Repeat sounds that don't exist in your first language or that are tricky. Using language apps with voice recognition or working with a tutor can be helpful. Focus on grammar contrasts. Study the differences in sentence structure, verb usage, and word order instead of assuming they match your native patterns. Engage in immersive activities. Listen to podcasts, watch movies, or read books in the new language to internalize natural usage and idioms. Use spaced repetition techniques. Repeated, timed exposure to correct forms helps your brain replace interfering habits with accurate ones. Why spaced repetition is a game changer for adult language learning. One of the most effective tools in fighting native language interference is spaced repetition. This technique takes advantage of how our brain naturally retains information and helps solidify the new language patterns you want to learn. ScienceBasedLearning.com offers a simple ebook, audiobook, and video language learning system combined with an online practice app that uses the science behind spaced repetition to maximize your learning and retention. This proven method targets the areas where native language interference might cause lapses, reinforcing your understanding efficiently over time. How to incorporate these strategies in your routine. When you learn a new language, you're training your brain to think differently. Instead of forcing your first language's rules onto new knowledge, focus on understanding key contrasts and actively practice correct patterns. It might feel awkward at first. That's normal. Over time, with the right tools and consistent effort, your mind will begin to switch gears. As you continue to refine your language skills, remember that native language interference is more than just a problem. It's a natural part of the language learning journey. Managing it successfully gives you a clearer path to fluency. Final thoughts. Adult language learning can be challenging, but understanding native language interference gives you an advantage. By recognizing why these errors happen and implementing science-backed techniques like spaced repetition, you can break the habits that hold you back and move forward with confidence. If you're serious about optimizing your language acquisition process and want a proven system supporting your goals, check out sciencebasedlearning.com. Their simple, effective system combines ebooks, audiobooks, videos, and a practical app designed around the science of memory and language learning to help you retain what you learn longer and more naturally. Keep your motivation high and your learning smart. Your new language awaits.